I want to focus on the EU pig industry as a whole rather than looking at the UK industry. And I want to focus not so much on the sows, but on the fattening pigs, the ones who actually provide the meat. We rear 250 million pigs every year in the European Union, and most of them are being reared very industrially. And specifically what I mean by that is that they're in barren systems, no enrichment materials, fully slatted floors, routinely tail-docked. Most of them are also being farmed illegally, and I'll explain that. There's widespread breaches of the EU Pigs Directive. We've conducted an investigation over the last 18 months into 6 member states: Germany, Spain, Netherlands, Denmark, Hungary and UK. Between them, these 6 member states account for 57% of pig production in the EU. And what we found was widespread breaches in that the pigs had no enrichment, almost all of them had no enrichment material, almost all of them were being routinely tail-docked. Scientific research has made it clear how important enrichment materials are for pigs. Pigs spend 75% of their day in activity, rooting, foraging, exploring. And therefore, the science, and it was summarised in a report by the European Food Safety Authority in 2007, has stressed that one of the most important things for pig welfare is that they should be supplied with enrichment materials. And it's made it clear that the EFSA report that these materials should be complex, changeable, destructible. In other words, things like chains and tyres are not effective enrichment materials. Now, in response to that science, EU law has since 2003 said that pigs have to be given straw or something similar so that they can engage in their natural behaviours. But it's clear from our investigation and other research that this law is being ignored by many pig farmers. Remember, I'm talking about the EU as a whole. The picture that you see there is typical of how many pigs are being kept in the EU. The next picture shows what a good indoor system would look like with really effective enrichment materials. However, most pigs are kept in these very barren systems, and what they do out of boredom and frustration is they begin to turn to the only other thing that's in their pen, which is the tails of other pigs. And they begin to bite those tails, not out of aggression, out of boredom. To prevent this, farmers cut off part of the tail. But the science is very clear in saying the right way to prevent biting is not to dock the tail, but to give the pigs good conditions, in particular enrichment. And so again, EU law follows the science, and since 2003 has prohibited routine tail docking. And the law, and I'm a lawyer by background, it's actually a very well written law, because it doesn't say you can never tail dock, but it says that before you dock, you first have to improve inadequate conditions. So, what's meant by this term inadequate conditions? And again, the science through the European Food Safety Authority is very helpful, because it's identified what are the conditions that mainly are going to lead to biting. And again, we see its absence of straw and a barren environment. So these two provisions about providing enrichment materials and banning tail docking are closely connected. But we've seen that most pigs in the EU are kept in barren conditions, in the very conditions that are a major risk for tail biting. And therefore, if one looks at the law and the science together, what is clear is that these kind of conditions, these barren conditions, must be changed before docking can lawfully be carried out. It's very simple, whether one's here in the UK, whether one's in the rest of the EU. If an inspector sees a very barren farm with no enrichment, but all the tails docked, he's got to say, this is illegal. You have not tried to change inadequate conditions and therefore legally are not entitled to dock. And yet, massive breaking of the law in Europe. An EFSA report from 2007 said that over 90% of pigs in the EU are tail docked, despite the ban on routine tail docking. I want to very briefly look at the UK position, because I know that's kind of concerns a lot of people here. Yes, of course, we've got higher welfare standards than those in many continental countries, but we can't afford to be complacent. Many of our fattening pigs are still being farmed very intensively. Our big improvement, or our big advantage is on the sows because we banned the sow stalls. We also don't permit castration, another big plus. But I saw some figures published by the industry just last week which said that 39% of UK pigs are being finished on fully slatted systems. It is almost impossible to provide effective enrichment and comply with the law if you've got a fully slatted system. Another 30% on partly slatted systems. And again, really hard to know, and maybe in the question and answer session or in presentations this can be clarified, whether on the partly slatted systems enrichment's been given or not. Big plus, though, is 31% have straw, and that's great. But it is 31% still a way to go. And very alarmingly, the EFSA report showed that 81% of UK pigs are being tail docked, despite the ban on routine tail docking. So to sum up, yes, good welfare standards here in the sense of better than on the continent, but still a way to go.